What's up guys, welcome back to Destiny Updates. I've got a number of interesting things to go over today. There's the Bungie weekly update, which is actually quite worthwhile this week. There's a Polygon article going over the character customization panel at GDC, and there's two other minor GDC bits we'll mention at the end as well. Let's get started. First, we'll take a quick look at the Polygon article, covering the character customization panel at GDC, which was hosted by Bungie's technical art lead, Scott Shepard. At the start, they mentioned the 4 slots that character armor is broken into, which are the same as we've seen before. He goes on to say that the team is working to make items functional and vital to gameplay, but also visually appealing to players. They want stuff to look cool, but also be functional and important to gameplay. He goes on to talk about the 3 classes. Nothing particularly new here, but he does say the hunter is meant to look like they scavenged the wilderness for gear. Their capes are torn and their equipment pieced together. Warlocks are a sort of warrior scholar, with inspiration drawn from wizards and World War I soldiers. Finally, the Titan, their gear is inspired by medieval armor, layered over tight-fitting suits. The next bit is something we've heard in regards to weapons, but not directly tied to armor until now. And that is that Bungie is designing components that can be used on many different pieces of armor, meaning that the designers can use those pieces interchangeably, over and over again. That way they can create a much larger amount of gear, but the items are still fairly unique, as a designer is putting them together manually and customizing them, not a program like in Borderlands. A similar design concept applies to Destiny's weapons, as I just said, and to Destiny's world design, as we saw with Grognok, their map designing tool, at last year's GDC. Something else very interesting in this paragraph is they said, as players pick up gear, they need to be able to keep and use that gear as the game grows in the coming years. So it sounds like we'll be holding onto our gear for a very long time to come. Continuing with their design process, he discussed something called Mashup, which is Bungie's character customization program that remixes bits and pieces of armor and gear into complete items players can equip. An image of this actually popped up on Twitter, and I'll show that on screen now. In that demonstration, the designer is using Mashup to create a helmet from a bunch of components. Another thing that the tool can do is automatically adjust gear to properly fit both male and female characters, which saves the designers time since they don't have to manually adjust each piece. Finally, they mentioned that a new feature will be an extensive decal system, and the team will also expand the game's color dyes to adjust accent colors, shininess, and gradients on items. An example of dyes is shown here. Now let's move on to the weekly update, which is definitely worth looking at. Deej begins by saying they were honored to host a very special guest in the studio this week, which ties into something very interesting a bit lower down. And that is that Destiny will have dignitaries, or emissaries, who visit the tower from other planets, bringing with them unique quests for us to do. They only stay for a short time though, and when they're gone, so is the quest. That makes a cool system where the world definitely feels more active and alive, and also makes an opportunity for you to get some rarer gear, because people who didn't find the quest in time probably won't be able to get it. We don't know how long exactly these special guests will stick around, but Deej did say, emissaries appear for a short period of time, then they're gone, like the spirit of a fallen captain, carried away by the wind. This is also just one of the many things they're doing to bring the world to life, according to Deej. Just when we think we know everything about the world, they hope Destiny will continue to surprise us. At the end of this segment, he said, "We won't tell you exactly when or how all of these moments will arrive." Then adding that perhaps a friend will point you in the right direction, or maybe we'll be the one leading our friends. It was nice to hear about something completely new and unexpected in the weekly update, and I really like the sound of that system. It seems like a great idea to me. I can see some people being annoyed with it, because if you miss the emissary, you probably won't be able to complete that quest. But in my opinion, that's not really a bad thing. I certainly don't expect I'll be completing all of them. I hope I don't. It makes the world much more alive and dynamic. And I mean, these aren't major story missions or anything, just interesting side quests. Anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Moving on, Deej gives us a high-res wallpaper version of a scene in the PS4 sharing commercial. So if you're looking for a new Destiny screenshot, here you go. It's also worth adding that Deej said they know we're waiting to see more. We're anxious. While that is a good thing and they love us for it, they are loading their cannons. Soon they'll light the fuse and the real fun will begin. So that sounds quite exciting, and I can't wait to see what's coming up in the near future. Going on to the mail sack, the first interesting question comes from I'm Steel Assassin, who asks if there will be any support specialization for Guardians, like healing or damage buffs for allies. Deej says that while some Guardians are built to be more aggressive than others, it could be said that every player of Destiny can fill a support role. Continuing that their designers have conceived some intriguing ways to reward you for fighting alongside your friends, instead of just nearby them. He also said it may surprise us to learn that we've seen these mechanics in action, but they have yet to see anyone call attention to them. He then says, "That's not Glimmer, David," highlighting my name with a link, which leads to my What We Know video. I had to reread this a few times before I got it, but basically I think he's saying that what I thought was Glimmer, these shimmering blue orbs here, is actually this other teamwork-based reward. I seem to remember that in the second Vidoc, when the Guardian collected those orbs, his super's energy bar jumped up with each one he collected. Perhaps quickly recharging supers is one of the benefits? I have no idea really, but I'm quite interested in seeing what this reward system really does and just learning more about it. Also, it was really fun seeing myself mentioned in the update. Even if it was calling me out on being wrong, at least we learned something. Thanks, Deej. Next, Spiky Demon asks if there's an element of stealth in the game. Deej says, "If we told you that you could render yourself invisible and strike with a blade sheathed in the Traveler's Light, would that be stealthy enough for you?" So it sounds like some sort of cloaking system and a good amount of stealth has been implemented into the game. Next up, Who Knows asks if testers will be treated differently than the rest of the community. Deej said that he has seen a couple of special rewards they have set aside for beta testers. So beta testers do get something to show we were here before launch. And then Spawn, fitting name for his question, asks what happens when your entire fire team dies. Deej says, "The darkness consumes you." Now that doesn't tell us much, but we do already know that strikes have a checkpoint system. I assume something similar is in place for story missions. Raids, I'm guessing, will not be so easy. Our final interesting question comes from Bark Chip of Doom, who asks if they have big plans for E3 this year. Deej replies, "I just came from a conference room where we were trying to decide if we should go to E3 this year. What do you think? Should we do it?" Now personally, I wouldn't even speculate that they're going to E3 again, and by that, I mean that it's not even speculation, because it's just a given in my opinion. There's no way they just wouldn't go to E3. Now that brings us to the end of the weekly update, one of the best ones we've had in a while in my opinion. Now for the two minor things that we've heard from GDC, first, Destiny uses a tool by Faceware Technologies to power the facial animations in Destiny's cinematics. This tool has been used on Academy Award-winning movies and some of the most successful AAA video games. Bungie even used it on their last game, Halo Reach. So it doesn't seem surprising that they've decided to use it again. It should hopefully help them achieve realistic facial animations with less effort. Now for the final tidbit of news, if you've been around my channel since last year's GDC, then you may remember that Destiny uses a visual rendering engine called Umbra. Well, we just learned that Umbra has added virtual reality specific optimizations to Umbra 3. Virtual reality, or VR, meaning peripherals like the Oculus Rift that you may have heard of. The optimization helps increase performance to achieve the highest degree of visual fidelity automatically. VR requires 2 images to be created, one for each eye. Normally, those have to be generated individually, but these new optimizations allow for a single image to be generated for both eyes, effectively halving the workload. Now this has very little significance as it currently stands, but since Destiny uses Umbra 3, it could be said that Destiny is more easily capable of using virtual reality in the future as a result of this, if Bungie decided to implement it. That brings us to the end of this update though. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, leaving a like is always very much appreciated and really helps me out a bunch. As always though, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest Destiny news, and I'll see you in the next update.